Yo, what's up, guys? Sorry I haven't been uploading as much as I've been traveling quite a bit, but today I wanted to touch on a topic that I thought was really important, especially for my younger audience. See, as I'm reaching closer and closer to age 30, something's been painfully evident the older that I get, which is that, as a man, I'm just getting started. I'm just now entering the best years of my life. It's funny because when I was younger, I was always so scared of growing older, of aging. I thought that it meant I'd look less and less attractive to girls, that my body would start breaking down in ways I couldn't control. The idea of getting closer and closer to death terrified me. And it's a common sentiment that I see online, that if you don't have it all figured out by 25, then you're basically toast. Well, I disagree. See, it's so much easier to be optimistic about life when you believe that your best days are ahead of you, not behind you. So today, I wanted to break down the question, when is it truly a man's prime? But first, a message from our sponsor, Roman. Listen fellas, if you properly internalize everything I've ever taught in my videos, you're gonna get physically intimate with women at some point. And from man to man, the last thing I want to happen to you is for something to ruin your confidence or your performance in the bedroom. Because it's estimated that 52% of men will experience erectile dysfunction at one point in their lives. If this sounds like something you faced, I really recommend dealing with it with the help of today's sponsor, Roman. Roman can connect you directly with a US licensed healthcare professional for a free telehealth consultation from the privacy of your own home. The provider will find the treatment that's right for you and prescribe effective medication if needed. The whole process is honestly super simple. So if you think this is something that'll help you, you can head to getroman.com/gentleman to complete your free consultation and find out if this is the right treatment for you. Oh, and if you're prescribed, by using my link, you'll get $15 off your first month of ED treatment, which benefits us both. Again, that's getroman.com/gentleman. Now back to the video. So let's start with your formative years, from 14 to 18. I mean, anyone with half a brain would understand that there's no way these teen years would be the best years of a man's life. Your prefrontal cortex isn't developed yet, meaning you haven't fully mentally and emotionally matured. The only thing I would say is peaked during this time in your life is your hand-eye coordination when it comes to things like video games. That's why you see so many professional esports players that are in their teens. This is also the time in your life where, compared to the other age ranges that I'm gonna get to later, you're most impressionable. You're a blank canvas in many ways, meaning you can learn information faster and easier. But the problem is that at 15 years old, you don't have the maturity to focus your attention to learning the right things. Now, the next age range, 18 to 23, is one where I think many guys think is your peak as a man. Overall, I definitely wouldn't agree with this idea, but there are some things in your life that I'd say do peak during this time. A study conducted by the Cleveland Science Clinic found that at around 20 years old, a man's level of HGH, human growth hormone, and testosterone is at its highest. HGH is important for maintaining your body structure, recovery, and metabolism. This is why guys in their late teens, early 20s, who start working out for the first time in their lives, will see a much bigger and more drastic change in their physique, in terms of losing fat and putting on muscle, compared to, say, the 35-year-old guy who starts working out for the first time. I mean, of course, you can get in shape at any age with proper diet and exercise, but the effort required is going to be a lot less when you're at peak levels of testosterone. But I don't want to make it seem like after 25, a man's testosterone falls off a cliff. It's a very slow regression, until about 40 years old, when it starts taking a bigger dive downwards. So yes, in this aspect, a man is physiologically in his prime in his late teens and early 20s. Combined with the fact that you have time and you can afford to experiment, you can afford to try different things and fail horribly at them and still be okay. But the reason I say it's still nowhere near a man's actual prime is because young dudes in this age range simply don't have life figured out. They don't have life experience, they don't have much dating experience, they have no career or assets at all because they're still finishing up school. They're just beginning to start building. Just because you have the metabolism of a horse doesn't mean you're happy, fulfilled, successful, or attractive to women. Which brings us to the next phase of a man's life, from 24 to 29. This is an extremely crucial period for a man. It's the period where I'd say a guy makes the transition from a boy into a man. And I'd also say from a pure look standpoint, a guy in his late 20s is entering his prime. He still has the youthful glow of his 20s, but his facial features are starting to mature a bit. As you enter your mid to late 20s, your physical athletic prime starts to come in as well. I know I said your metabolism peaks in your teens and early 20s, but in your later 20s, your man strength starts coming in more. Plus your explosiveness and agility are still there. That's why you see so many athletes start to peak in sports like basketball and football in their late 20s, around 28 or so. At this point, if you've been hitting the gym consistently for a few years, your physique will start to look really good. From a mental standpoint, they say that your cerebral cortex finishes developing at around 25. From my experience, around the time in your mid to late 20s is when you really start to mature. Things that seemed scary to you in your early 20s, like working your first job, talking to women, etc., isn't such a big deal anymore. You start to slowly develop the emotional maturity to deal with women. You start to understand how to interact with them. Of course, this assumes that you've been building experience. It doesn't matter if you're 35 or 40 years old, you'll still have no charisma or game around women if you don't go out and properly socialize. From a financial standpoint, things are starting to improve. By your late 20s, you'll probably have had a promotion in your career, assuming you started from college. Or at the very least, after a decade of experimenting and seeing what you're interested in or passionate about, you start to develop an idea of what you can see yourself doing for the next 30, 40 years. Basically, this age range from your mid to late 20s is when the snowball just starts rolling down the hill. It's just started to pick up some momentum. And then your 30s arrive. Around 30 to 34, I'd say a man has just entered his true prime. You're matured. You've started to get your shit together finally. You're starting to make real money now, while at the same time still being in your physical prime. Sure, your testosterone will start to slightly taper off here, but nothing substantial. You now have your man body. Your frame is bigger, you're still strong, relatively athletic. This is actually the age range where I'd say you're most attractive to the majority of women. When you're 31, 32, you're still young looking enough to attract women in their early 20s, but you can just as easily hold your own in a conversation with a hot 40-year-old. Your dating pool is probably at its peak here in your early to mid 30s. You're confident, you're comfortable in your own skin. The only danger of entering your 30s as a man are the habits you've built up over time. If you've been putting in the work in all areas of life, hustling in business or a career, eating relatively clean and exercising, going out and learning the art of seduction, you will be an absolute G by the time you're in your early 30s. But if you're 30 years old with nothing to show for it, still directionless, out of shape, jerking off to porn in your mom's basement, well then honestly, that's sad. Women and your peers will be repulsed by you. Now, the next phase, say 35 to 42, you are still in your prime. You're definitely starting to lose a step physically, but you can still stay in great shape with a disciplined, healthy lifestyle. This age range is where you're almost pretty much in your peak earning years. You've made director role in your firm, your business is established, finances are handled. This is also the best period, in my opinion, to consider settling down and starting a family. You're 35, 36, 37, fully matured, you're earning great money, you've had worldly experience interacting with people and women from all types of different backgrounds. Your testosterone starts to drop off as you approach your 40s, but in a way this makes you more calm, you're less desperate for sex, you appreciate good conversation way more, and this makes you more attractive to women. Even though you might not be in your physical prime anymore as you enter your 40s and beyond, you're still in your prime overall in terms of attractiveness. Now, the rest of a man's 40s is just a slow continuity of the trend that I was just explaining. You're still in your peak earning years. Physically, you're starting to decline more, but with proper lifestyle, it's nothing that I'd really worry about. I mean, there's a reason why so many women have a fetish for older men, because they offer wisdom, experience, they're self-assured, they're less angsty, and they're more comfortable in their own skin. Personally, I look forward to my 40s because I've seen firsthand some of my older guy friends in this age range who still kill it with women. As a man enters his 50s and beyond, this is what I'd consider his philosophical prime. You've accumulated wisdom, assets, and experience, which makes you a great mentor for younger guys. And if you've lived life right, you don't even really care anymore about these superficial things like sleeping with women. You've been around the block, and your wealth of knowledge makes you a respected member of society. You're calm, content, you understand the game of life and the preciousness of it, how it's all fleeting. See, each of these age ranges that I broke down, all the way from 14 to your 50s, as I've explained, reach different types of their primes at different stages of your career. I know for a fact that most of you guys watching are on the younger side, under 30. So the main point is, don't worry. Chances are your prime is still ahead of you, provided you're putting in the work, instilling good habits, thriving every day to become the best version of yourself. I know for myself, when I was 20 years old, I was an absolute loser compared to myself now. And it's inspiring knowing that my best days are still to come. So to answer the original question, when is a man's prime? If I had to pinpoint an age range, I'd probably answer something like from 28 to 45. But I'd also add the caveat that, in a way, a man is always in his prime. A man could be in his 60s and still be in his prime, provided he's played the game of life the right way. So realize that the earlier you start, the longer your prime extends. Chances are you're still a baby. So that's it for the video. Hope you guys found it inspiring. As always, next week I have another video you're not going to want to miss, so make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Peace.